5, switching lanes, dripping paint. Feel like Speedracer, pussy boy, I win the race.
The year was 1603, Japan.
What we do here is go back.
Japan had just met a white person for the first time and made the controversial decision to isolate their country for 265 years. You could say that Japan and the European or later United States relationship is a strange one, like two people who desperately love each other but know that being together would only cause terrible problems for themselves and everyone around them. We destroy their traditional way of life with industry and technology, they bomb Pearl Harbor, we usher in an unimaginable and unending era of horror with the atomic bomb, and bestow the power of God under the undeserving hands of mortals, and they invent anime, manga, and video games, and it does almost more damage. You can rebuild after a bomb, I don't know how the fuck you fix this. Thanks to Naruto, there's white people in my comments telling me I'm not pronouncing Japanese words correctly. Okay, Caleb. Following the end of World War II, Japan was kind of fucked, but thankfully the United States was here to save Japan from the United States and help them rebuild. It was during this US occupation of Japan that soldiers would share their comic books with the Japanese people, and they would first learn of Superman, Mickey Mouse. I don't think there was any other comics yet. It was here that many early mangakas were first shown the wonders of America's greatest export, entertainment. And particularly one who was most smitten with this new and exciting artistic avenue was a young hustler known as Tatsuo Yoshida. When you want to talk grind, talk about Tatsuo. This man and his brothers turned paper and pen into paper and penthouses. His early work include Iron on Rikia, Japanese Superman, Pilot Ace, Hayabusa Q. Y'all don't know any of these comics, but there's an 80-year-old Japanese nerd watching this right now, and he's going apeshit, just ooh, ooh, ooh. But there is one that you almost certainly do know. The adventures of an utterly insane super race car driver and his family who battles mobsters, supervillains, giant monsters, and whatever the fuck else the writers decide that week. The comic was successful, as was the anime, but it really blew up in the United States a few years later once it began airing as the name is near universally now known as Speedracer. Damn it. Fucking the intro's broken. The series was in many ways a precursor to the Fast and the Furious, taking the race car genre to such an illogical extreme that you'd have to be stupid to try and reason against it. Stop fighting. Eat your slop. Shovel it down your gullet, you worm! The focus wasn't so much on racing as it was on bombastic action and plot lines. The show ran for its 52 episodes, it was a smash hit. They tried to do some other series just to keep the squeeze going, but there was just something about the original anime that was just so...
Please don't smash into it!
Are you my brother, Rex Racer?
Papa!
My daughter.
But Hap must win so that he can pay for the doctors to make his sister well.
Doesn't matter to me what his reasons are for wanting to win. I wouldn't be playing fair if I let him win the race on purpose.
Speed!
Speed wins!
It had this, certain...
He's going over that cliff!
certain magic to it, I think is the most accurate way to put it. But there's an old saying in the entertainment industry, strike while the iron's hot. So that's why, following the success of the anime in the late 1960s, Warner Brothers would begin production of a live-action adaptation of Speedracer in 1992, which would then be in production hell until 2006 and not released until 2008. Most Speedracer fans can't even remember the names of their children. You expect them to remember a show they watched back in the 60s? And as for the kids who maybe watched it when it re-aired on Cartoon Network or MTV in the 90s, they were all high, which to be fair is probably the best way to watch Speedracer. But still, you can't expect them to like remember. Now look, all I'm saying is there was a time when this movie probably should have came out, and that time is like 1968. If we're just talking about like maximizing profits, making a film that will get like asses in seats, probably should have made it in 1968. However, that doesn't mean this movie is bad. There was a big trend around this time to dig up the old husks of cheap, goofy kids' cartoons and try to squeeze the last bits of nostalgic money juice out of them. Obviously, you know, stuff like James Gunn's Scooby-Doo movies, Alvin and the Chipmunks, the Flintstones, the Smurfs, Fat Albert, Inspector Gadget, Rocky and Bullwinkle, Space Jam, Casper, or the cult classic Josie and the Pussycats. I did a video on this one too. And one thing the Speed Racer movie shares with some of these other movies is that critics automatically dismiss many of them as cheap cash grabs. And many of them were soulless bullshit, let's be real here. But even if that's what most of these are, you should still approach everything with the benefit of the doubt. This may look and smell like dog shit, but there's still a chance it's Snickers. And as if being a live-action cartoon adaptation wasn't a bad enough rap, it was also a live-action anime adaptation, which despite being no different, is different. Caleb certainly would want to have a talking to with me if I keep calling Speed Racer a cartoon instead of an anime, even though that's just what cartoon means in Japanese, you pedantic fuck. So Warner Brothers got the Wachowskis on board to write and direct this shit, and anyone who has seen The Matrix will know that the Wachowskis are a bit insane. They weren't just signing on for a paycheck. They really weren't just signing on for a paycheck. If they were doing this movie, they were going to go hard as fuck. They did. Speed Racer might be in my top 2 favorite movies of all time. It's between this and, ironically enough, the Keanu Reeves film Speed. Now, Speed is fucking awesome, but Speed Racer is fucking insane. Speed Racer, on a base level, is a story of a man who is inexplicably named Speed Racer. What's your name? Speed Racer. Occupation? Speed Racer. I mean, fuck, imagine if you didn't want to go into the race car industry. Hi, I'm Speed Racer, funeral home director. He races in these F-Zero-esque anti-gravity supersonic death matches in his car, the Mach 5, and that's all he wants to do. Compete in speed races and go fast as fuck, boy. But whenever someone is good at what they do, there are charlatans and snakes around the corner who seek to exploit and bastardize everything they love about what they do. Which is extremely real, look at my business email. So Speed is trying to eat pancakes when this fat fuck named Royalton comes to his house and makes him the deal of a lifetime. Unlimited power! In exchange for abandoning all of his ideals and helping Royalton fix races to manipulate the stock market. Speed declines, citing that he doesn't move like that, and Royalton begins doing everything in their power to ruin Speed's life and make him quit the only thing he loves. With his back against the wall, the immense pressure to save not only himself and his entire family's passions, Speed does the only thing he possibly can. Drive fast and furiously to save the world. Or at least the world relative to him. Now on a surface level, and I mean like really surfacely, like on a visual level, you might be looking at this movie and wondering why I insist on showing you the VeggieTales CGI vomit instead of this good movie I'm supposedly so in love with, but actually, this is Speed Racer. If I were like an uncreative Redditor or something, I might make some sort of meme like, so how much CGI should we use in this movie? Yes.
Stop laughing. That's funny.
Yeah, yuck it up. The car movie has super obvious CGI in it. I know where most of you subscribe to me from. Don't you even fucking try. This movie's visual style, especially in the beginning, is a bit of a hurdle to get over. I actually recall when I watched this movie for the first time a few years ago, being absolutely dumbfounded that a movie that the Wachowskis made looked like Spy Kids 3 Game Over. Like, I can accept the crazy Hot Wheels races being a CGI nightmare, but why is the Neighborhood 2? Like, what the fuck? But over time, I've come to realize that the me of 2.5 years ago was a midwit slut who was also a Speed Racer is different from many live-action cartoon anime adaptations because it's not trying to make you forget what it is. It's not ashamed to be based off a cartoon and afraid to depict an impossible, goofy world because fuck you. I mean, honestly, you'd have to be, like, mentally fucked in the head to hear about a Speed Racer movie and think, oh boy, I sure hope everything is grounded and reasonable. Reasonable? Have you seen the show? There's an episode where they race the world's largest car and it's like made out of gold or something. And there's another episode where Speed races the car acrobatic team. It would legitimately be a betrayal of the source material to make this world gritty and realistic when Speed Racer has always been an extremely silly series. So yeah, the CGI might be a little colorful and goofy, but like, that's what you signed up for. It's a goofy kids cartoon. Get in the mindset. The biggest sport in the world here is psychedelic hypercars. Of course this is what outside looks like. And what that does is make the stuff that's real stick out even more than it would normally. The actors, their performances, and their words. All this shit is awesome, don't get it Pepsi twisted, but none of it would be worth 2 squirts of piss if there wasn't masterful screenwriting surrounding it. Wow, it's like the opposite of Initial D 5th Stage. Take the first 17 minutes of the film for example. In just 17 minutes, we get not only gorgeous racing and insane hyper-drifting scenes, but we get this short film that tells us a mind-boggling amount of information. We learn that Speed loves racing and was destined for it. We learn about his relationship with his brother and his family, how he met his girlfriend, the dark, seedy underbelly of the racing world, his little brother as a pet chimp, the tragedy of his older brother Rex and the impact that's had on his family and their goals of keeping his legacy alive, all being told in the most entertaining and seamlessly engaging way possible, cutting back and forth between all these characters and what watching Speed right here means to them. We see his mom and it cuts to the past, and we see that she lost their first son to racing, and we see all these commentators talking shit on Rex, and Speed watching his brother's Gran Turismo time trial ghost, which might as well be a real ghost, and he's got tears running down his face, and I've got tears running down my face, and the music is all bitch, it's angelic, because this is a spiritual moment. This car is my church and the pedal is where I pray. Jesus, take the wheel, but then he lets off the gas right at the finish to cement his brother's name in legend. And it's just like that one green text, you know the one, but instead of some gay kid and his gay dead dad, it's Speed Racer and Rex Racer, and Speed saying, you might not like my brother Rex, but his name will always be right there in first place where it belongs, right above mine. So you gotta beat both of us, and that's not gonna happen because I am literally Speed incarnate. Cooking doesn't even come close to describing it. We're an entire goddamn restaurant. Speed Racer, much like Josie and the Pussycats, isn't exactly a complex movie to understand, but that didn't stop anyone from not understanding it. The plot is very cut and dry, art is art, and as soon as you introduce sponsors, money, and advertisers into the mix, the art becomes lessened. The main villain, Royalton, explains to Speed that all the iconic moments in racing, the ones that him and his dad watched together grieving over the death of Rex, were not the magic they believed they were. They were rigged races set up for the benefit of the stock market. They were all fixed, every last one. And that's what racing really is. Nothing to do with drivers, passions, or cars. It's all about the money. But Speed doesn't believe it. It's real to me, damn it! It's a simple story about how passion perseveres above all else. Sure, you need to make money to survive, but you can do it with honor still. In one of the most beautiful scenes in the movie, following an illegitimate loss at the hands of Royalton and Fuji that has put the Racer family in legal trouble, Speed's mom tells him that he can't quit. Not as in he isn't allowed to quit, but because what he does on that track is art, and you can only do that if you're really about this shit.
When I watch you do some of the things you do, I feel like I'm watching someone paint or make music. I go to the races to watch you make art. And it's beautiful and inspiring and everything that art should be. Even though there are times when I have to close my eyes. But then there are other times when you just take my breath away.
This is nuts. This is a character whose actual name is Mom Racer, and she's married to a man named Pops Racer, and she's having a legitimately tear-jerking scene with her son, whose fucking name is Speed Racer. And not only is it effective, it's by miles the realest thing I've ever heard in a movie about art, and it all comes back to that visual style. I think the best argument you can make for why the movie looks like this and why they chose racing as the avenue to tell a story about art and artists is because it does such a great job at conveying the excitement and adrenaline of creativity. I feel exactly like Speed Racer right now. The larger-than-life, impossible, hyperactive spectacle of the whole thing is what makes it so goddamn effective at what it's trying to say. It's like impossibly insane, it's so over the top, but you look at that and you understand like, yeah, this is what it's all about. And the final race in the film at the Grand Prix is the perfect example of why you always need to go 1,000,000,000%, because it takes such a simple premise of what if somebody really wanted to win a race and elevates it to one of the greatest finales of all time. By competing in a dangerous rally race, the Casa Cristo with Racer X during the midsection of the film to earn a spot in the Grand Prix, which, by the way, the Casa Cristo is fucking nuts. This is the part of the movie where they give Speed all the ridiculous shit from the anime, like the saw blades and the bulletproof windshield and the spiked tires, and it's like, look, rally racing in real life is insane, but then you take this movie and this world and these cars and all this stuff and throw it into a rally race, and the movie just becomes this bonkers, high-octane spy thriller for like 30 minutes, where they fight ninjas and mobsters and Speed is doing car fu, and basically, this movie got my pants feeling like a urinal, the way I keep putting all this piss in them. Anyway, back to the finale. I forgot I was making a point about something. I got dementia. Is Ludacris in this? The Grand Prix has been rigged for decades now. It's this choreographed event where every racer knows where they're going to place because they've been paid off by all these mega corporations and sponsors to, again, manipulate the stock market. But Speed winning a spot in the Grand Prix wasn't a part of any of their plans. He is not supposed to be there. He's a complete rogue agent. Every racer on the track gets their orders to take him out, $1 million bounty for anyone who knocks Speed out. It's a 1v39 car battle royale where Speed is not only driving at unholy speeds and making Takumi Fujiwara look like Tyler Fredericks, but also leaving a trail of destruction behind him, turning every car that tries to fuck with him into a ball of fire. He's unstoppable. He's gonna break the sound barrier. Here's gonna... Ah, shit, this guy got him. Okay, never mind. Movie's over. I don't know what else should we talk about now. Wangan Midnight might sound like a Japanese porn cable channel, but it's actually... Just kidding. Speed gets the Mach 6 going again, and this is where the movie all comes together. If you thought Speed was going fast before, well, let's just say I doubt you finished high school, you dumbass bum, because now Speed is going into hyperdrive as the colors, music, and intensity of the scene start going, bananas, and we get all these voiceovers. Racing's never gonna change. You take my breath away. And the family is all like, holy shit, and I'm all like, holy shit. And then we see these match cuts of Speed as a child in the doodle car, and he turns the wheel and it flashes and it becomes adult Speed, and he's turning the wheel because racing hasn't changed and it's still art, and he's still the same kid who never stops thinking about driving. He's got gasoline in his blood and fire in his heart, and his heart is pumping like 1,000 pistons, 1,000,000 horsepower, and no one can stop him. They don't want it like he wants it. They're utterly unfamiliar with his game, and he Bakugans into them and blows them the fuck up like, get that weak shit off my track. You can say that in a PG movie, what the fuck? And he goes flying through the explosion, leaving the filthy past, the corruption behind him, and a ball of fire. Bringing in a new era of racing, and the finish line completely envelops and surrounds him as he barrels across on melting tires. It's a pretty cool movie, like 3 out of 5. But what does it truly mean to be fast? In nature, speed is what saves you, either from predators or from starvation. Speed makes you untouchable and glorious, but speed can also guarantee your death if you can't control it. Maybe there's some deep-seated part of our monkey brains that wants to use technology to finally become faster than the mighty cheetah, man's mortal enemy since the dawn of time. In the movie, the only answer to Speedracer's problems is to go fast and become the demon on wheels that was prophesized in the theme song of the original series, an untouchable and unfathomable deity hell-bent on delivering a righteous fury onto the corrupt world of track racing. If I had to say something I didn't like that much, it's just a few of the Spritle and Chim Chim scenes. I know everyone says this, and I mean, look, I don't want to step on anyone's toes here.
Whose toes are those? Who's that?
I always want to see a monkey in a movie for no reason, especially when it's a real monkey, because, monkeys are awesome. So, we'll give the movie a couple of monkey points. However, it's not great that this monkey did grope Christina Ricci, so maybe take a few more points, maybe take a few monkey points off, and also I think somebody actually beat the monkey for that, so I don't know where I stand on this issue. It's complicated. What else can I say? It's complicated. But sometimes, particularly in scenes like Royalton's evil monologue about the realities of racing, where mid-sentence it'll go from this electric and spine-chilling scene to some shit that, Or at the end when Speed and Trixie are about to have their epic kiss, and then Spritle and Chim Chim will interrupt the scene to do like a fourth wall break. It's like, shut the fuck up. It's totally cool when they're just in scenes naturally, but instances like these just make me nostalgic for Cannibal Holocaust. Sometimes a feller like me really has to start to wonder what's more likely. I'm wrong or everyone else is. It can't possibly be true that every movie that was critically panned on release is secretly this great avant-garde piece of expressionist cinema that professional movie critics failed to see. And yet here we are again. Another movie that I'll have to nurse back to health and feed milk until more people start to understand the brilliance of it. Thankfully, Speedracer is more or less understood these days, and much of the reasoning for its poor reception can be boiled down to a Back to the Future meme and the fact that the movie got released at a bad time where realism was the hot ticket. This came out the same year as Iron Man and The Dark Knight. People wanted stuff that seemed grounded and real. Speedracer was real as fuck, but it certainly wasn't grounded or realistic. It was colorful and wacky, and people just weren't in the mood for it. I know it took me a while to warm up to it too. But hey, don't be a midwit slut like me. Give Speed a chance.
Let's get some pussy tonight.